Are the IRA about to be back in a big way? Is Trafalgar Square and London really safe? Israel rejects Trump's 15-point Gaza plan. And are thousands and thousands of more crimes about to be committed on UK streets? This plus more in today's episode.
100 years ago, Nikola Tesla discovered a healing technology that threatened the entire pharmaceutical industry. The day he died, the government seized everything. For 100 years, this technology was hidden. Until now, plasma is back. Tesla Club, tzla.club.
Right, welcome everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. Well, we've spoken for a few weeks, months, about the fact that if you ignore a grievance, you ignore a genuine concern of people, and you tell them they're wrong, or you just literally ignore it completely, eventually they will take matters into their own hands, because eventually there will come a point where they fear and feel there is so little kind of consequence for doing so, and the consequence of ignoring it is worse, that they'll be emboldened, I should say, to do something for their own. And that's inevitably come. Now, Ireland is somewhere that is been quite famous over the years for a resistance to authority. And, you know, we saw through the IRA and the Troubles, we saw the fact that the population there didn't want London to be controlling them, and obviously as a result it caused a lot of division within that society, and it caused a lot of violence for quite a long time. Now that's been relatively calm for a quite prolonged period of time now, and relationships between all those nations and people has been pretty good. However, you don't mess with the Irish, and that's kind of been a bit of a thing that has gone through their history and their society. And from chatting to people in Ireland over the last few years, they've been quite disappointed by the fact that the Irish certainly seem to have changed in that respect, and are accepting things that they previously wouldn't have done, and are accepting changes to their society that people feel they should be standing up to or should be fighting against, because it's certainly not benefiting their society. And whether that's economic plans, and whether that's the big one that we're going to talk about this morning, which is immigration. Now, immigration is a concern of many, many nations. And when I say concern, I'm not talking about a concern of anyone appearing or anyone trying to set a new life in that country. I'm talking about the lack of understanding and the lack of respect from the state, for one, and from, in large numbers, not everyone of course, but in large numbers, the people coming in to whatever that nation might be. Excuse me. And as I say, always start with a disclaimer when we talk about this subject. I'm not talking about England, I'm not talking about Ireland, I'm not talking about America, I'm not talking about any one nation in particular when it comes to the subject of immigration. I'm talking about any nation and any type of immigration. Because any type of immigrant that comes into any country should come in my opinion, with the attitude of gratefulness that the country has taken them in, or a country they decide they want to live in has accepted them. And there should be a respect towards the indigenous culture of that nation. And I apply that, as I always say, I'll apply that to anyone who's British, who's going to go and live on the south of Spain. You go there and you respect the culture that you're going into. You're moving to that country for a reason. And the reason that you're moving to that country is either that country has offered you asylum and has offered you an opportunity to start your life again, in which case show it the respect that that gesture deserves, or you're going to live in a nation because you like that country, and therefore why would you want to go there and turn it into or live in a way that is different to the country that you say you like? Those two things to me are very, very important. And if they are the foundation of any kind of immigration, then I think we might actually get somewhere, because that's, you know, that whole philosophy I have there is based on respect. It's based on respect. You know, if I move to Spain and it's in the culture that they take an afternoon break, for example, a siesta, which it is, and understandably in the heat, I'm not going to go there and disrespect that by demanding that, I don't know, the person painting my house can't do that, they've got to work there, and then moan about it. Because you're going into a culture, you know what you're going into. In the same way, if you're coming into a British culture, an Irish culture, you respect that as well. Now, the reason this is important, and the reason that this morning this is making headlines, is because the IRA, the Irish Revolutionary Army, who obviously were at the forefront of the Troubles and the Civil War in Ireland and Northern Ireland through that period, which ended with the Good Friday Agreement, where they were essentially at war with the British Army over control of the counties in Northern Ireland. Places like Derry, Belfast were very, very dangerous places. And there still is, a divide. There's a bit of a religious divide as well between Catholic and Protestants in that region. It's not simply just political, but it's mainly political. Do you want to be a united Ireland, or do you want to be part of the United Kingdom with London calling the shots? That's essentially what the divide is between. And the IRA very much disbanded after that Good Friday Agreement. Certainly there wasn't car bombs going up left, right and centre as there used to be. There wasn't things like that happening on a daily basis, which there were. There wasn't the constant fear in Britain that the IRA were going to do something, which there was, from my understanding, in that period before my time. And I remember thinking, and I remember saying to a friend of mine, I've got a good friend of mine that lives in Belfast, that I'm quite surprised reading and seeing all the stories that I see online, all the videos you find on Twitter and YouTube of people being harassed by immigrants and girls being followed home, the violent crime increase, particularly towards women and so on in Ireland. I was very surprised that no one was doing anything about it. Nobody was standing up. Certainly the police and the authorities weren't, but I was surprised the population weren't, because as you see with the IRA in that period, that wasn't the authorities, that was an organisation of people. Whether you agree with them, whether you don't, it was an organisation of people. So I basically was pointing out that at some point, in my opinion, the people that had kind of stepped back or had thought this isn't worth the fight were going to start to reconsider. And that's exactly what's happened. So this story has come out this morning in the Daily Star over in Ireland. New IRA plotting violent campaign to drive out migrants. It's time for civil war, they are saying. Intelligence officials have issued a warning that the new IRA is planning a wave of violence intended to drive migrants out of Ireland. Experts fear the group will capitalise on tensions in their quest for a united Ireland. Now, the key point there, we'll come to the rest of it in a second, but the key point there is capitalise on tensions. That use of language there, because if you're capitalising on tensions and there's an admission there is tension there, right? Well, let's strip that back to the level behind then. Why is there tension there? That's the first question that the authorities and intelligence agencies and all that should be asking. That tension is there because of decisions been made by you. So you have to own that. You have to acknowledge that. You have to give people the respect of, actually, we've done something and it's not working, clearly not working, and it's causing tension. It's making you feel very uneasy in your homeland. It's causing an increase in violence, an increase in sexual assaults, and a general impact on quality of life. So that tension has been created. It's not come from nowhere. How people respond to it, we can argue on what's effective and what's not, and what's right and what's wrong. But the tension in the first place has been created by decisions. Again, it goes on. Security insiders revealed the group is planning to exploit public anxieties. Well, anxieties don't come from nowhere. If they're there for a reason. Following the stabbing of Stephen Olivi last month, allegedly by a Sudanese asylum seeker, this sparked riots in Belfast. Last week, a video surfaced online featuring an unidentified man issuing a chilling warning that the IRA would resort to violence to drive migrants out of Ireland. He stated, they will take control and they will give an ultimatum, not to politicians, but to the illegal migrants who are in the country. He further claimed that the British Army respected the IRA during the Troubles due to their effectiveness and professionalism. And he goes on to say, it is now time for civil war, and that is exactly what these guys are going to be doing. And can you blame them? So this guy's speaking on behalf of the IRA, essentially in a third person type vibe, although he's probably in it. Then none of them ever admitted they were in it, did they? Jerry Adams still to this day says he was never in it. But, this for me was an absolute inevitability. This was always going to come. You can take the most pacifist person, you punch them in the face, they're going to react. You poke them in the chest, they're going to react. Eventually they're going to react. Even if they walk away first time, if they do it again, they're going to react. And you ignore genuine concerns of people, and they are genuine concerns. You only got to see the stories, videos and so on coming out of Ireland. There is genuine reason for people to be fearful. There is genuine reason for people to be incredibly angry. And we see that across England as well. We see that across Scotland, across Wales. See that across lots of nations in Europe, where people are silenced, they are abused, they are told they are wrong, they are called something phobic, whatever you want to call, whatever you want to say, and accused of prejudice and discrimination for not wanting to talk about, for talking about obvious grievances, obvious concerns. The streets have changed, society has changed, and it's not changed for the better, has it? So this story, where people are now taking it upon themselves, that doesn't surprise me one little bit. In fact, I'm surprised it's taken this long. And I'm not sat here condoning violence and threats and bombings at all. I'm making the point that the system knows this is what's going to happen. As we say many a time, the system is predictable, but it's very clever at manipulating human behaviour. And you can predict with a relative degree of accuracy how most people are going to react to a certain situation. And if you put someone in a situation where they feel they can't do anything, they feel they've got no other choice, they feel violence is the only option, inevitably that's how it's going to react. You ignore somebody consistently, time and time and time again. You ignore a calm, genuine grievance. You ignore a calm, rational attempt to have a conversation about something. Well, eventually that anger, that resentment is going to build, it's going to build, it's going to build, and it's going to explode. That's exactly what we're seeing. That's why whenever there is catalysing events, whether it be the guy being stabbed in Belfast, whether it be Southport, whether it be any of these major events that then spark something, it's because that resentment, that anger was just under the surface. And all it needs is one thing to go. It's like a fire lighter to set up a fire. It just needs a little flame and then off you go. And that's what the entire nation, and to be honest, having spoken to many people, most of mainland Europe, including us, is like at the moment. It's one thing, one event, one spark from mass civil war. And that is exactly the plan. Because division creates control. Unity creates a much, much more difficult population to control. And just to go and show that this is not just Ireland, and we know it's not, have a look at this video. This is a video here of Trafalgar Square in London. Obviously, very famous square, very often full of people. It's mainly a pedestrian area when it comes to the centre of it. As you can see, these huge structures have been put up that weren't there not too long ago. And they are there, really. They'll probably try and deny the fact they're there for that reason. But they are there, really, to prevent cars driving into people. Prevent cars from driving into crowds of people and creating chaos, which we've seen in London. We've seen in Derby, just down the road from me, on a Saturday night a few months ago. We've seen in various different cities in Germany. We've seen right across Europe, including in the UK multiple times. You don't have to be particularly intelligent or have a great memory to point out that we didn't used to live like this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And there is obviously multiple reasons for that. The psychology of people, the attitude of people, violence in general has increased. But the fact that there is an immigration crisis where there is huge different demographics of people that all live very much separated from each other, that all have very different attitudes and philosophies towards life, all that disagree on massive fundamentals, and one of the biggest ones is the right for someone to live their life differently to yours. Many cultures have issues with that. You're their culture or you're against them, rather than you just believe what you want to believe and you respect them to believe what they want to believe. No, these people in various cultures want to absolutely control what you believe as well. Well, look where it's ended up. It's ended up with massive structures to prevent cars from being driven into crowds of people to kill anyone and everyone. Because at any one time, if you stood on the edge of Trafalgar Square and looked into the middle of it, there'll be every walk of life. There'll be young, there'll be old, there'll be men, there'll be women, there'll be families. There'll be school trips, probably. There'll be black, there'll be white, there'll be Muslim, there'll be Jews, there'll be Hindus. They'll be gay, they'll be straight. And that's unfortunately how we have to live now. And the reason we live like this is because of, going back to the first story, the ignoring of genuine concerns of people for so long that now it's got to the point where it's not too late. It's never too late, I don't think. But it's got to the point that the symptoms of the problem are so obvious. They're not, symptoms you only notice if you look. No, they're on the news most days, these symptoms, these problems. And if you continue to ignore them, that's not going to change, is it? That's only going to get worse. And as I say, and I say this many a time, this has nothing to do with race. This is to do with attitude. This is to do with culture. This is to do with philosophy, mindset. All of those things, exception of culture, even culture to a degree, all of those things are malleable. All of those things can change. And people sit and feel very afraid to say certain things and talk about certain subjects. I don't really care. I don't care what people think of what I have to say. You agree or you don't. I'm not going to lose sleep because I believe what I believe genuinely. I'm not saying this because it benefits me. I'm not saying this because I'm supported by somebody. I'm not saying this because it's on the algorithm. I'm saying this because I genuinely believe it. And therefore, if you don't like what I have to say, that's fine. That's entirely your prerogative. I want to live in a society where you can watch me speak and say, geez, what a prick. And I'll be fine with that. I also want to live in a society where I can say how I feel and you have the right to listen to it or not, agree with it or don't. And unfortunately, multiple societies around the world don't have that philosophy at all. And this one should be based on that very foundation. And the foundation to be able to say what you believe to be right. And I don't believe for a second that many people will look at videos like this and believe that's normal or right. They'll try and justify it. They'll try and explain it away, I'm sure. But deep down, that is not normal. And I refuse to accept living in a country or living in a world where concrete blocks have to be put on the edge of open spaces where people gather to stop people going in with cars, with vans, and killing people. That's not a society, that's not a country, that's not a world that I want my kids to grow up in. And I'd be very, very shocked if anybody watching feels any different to me on that one. So in order to deal with this, honest, open, and tough conversations have to be had. Public togetherness, unity needs to come. Community leaders across every demographic, across every culture, across every religion need to sit together, need to take control, need to get their houses in order. Across the board, that's everyone. And we might get somewhere. We might live in a harmonious country where everyone has the right to live how they want to live, but we respect each other. And it's all based on that. Right. Enough on that. If you're watching with me on YouTube or Twitter, if you head over to iconic.com, we're going to talk about the Israeli rejection of Trump's 15-point Gaza peace plan, and we're going to talk about more criminals potentially on the streets, which I'm sure will aid stories like that, won't it? It's definitely going to make it better. It's almost like creating chaos and a jungle atmosphere is by design, isn't it? Anyway, head over to iconic.com and watch the rest of this morning's episode for those two stories and more. I'll see you there.
In 1943, the government seized Nikola Tesla's most dangerous invention, a healing technology that threatened Big Pharma's entire empire. They buried it for 100 years, but it's back. And over 1,000 people worldwide are using it right now. When you join Tesla Club, you get your own Tesla plasma device, 5 times more powerful than the original Violet Ray and built to last. You join a private Telegram group where members share breakthroughs daily. Stroke recoveries, cancer reversals, chronic pain gone in minutes. These aren't stories. These are yesterday's posts. You get lifetime support from people who've been where you are. Technical guidance, therapeutic protocols, a group that actually understands. And you get access to hundreds of documented experiments, real members, real results, real transformations. No prescriptions, no waiting for permission, no begging doctors who don't believe you. Just you, your machine, and a movement taking health sovereignty back. We're Tesla Club, private science club for self-directed healing. Visit tzla.club. Join the revolution.
Plasma. It's back!